Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. It's deja vu all over again. The Trump-Musk bromance is dead for the second time in as many weeks. See, this is what I mean when I tell you that white supremacy is inherently unstable. We discussed Donald Trump sending illegal aliens to South Sudan yesterday. Well, he's once again saying that he's going to mull over whether or not Elon Musk should also be deported. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. Elon helped to bankroll Trump's re-election, and yes, that's after, as I told you previously, he spent months backing DeSantis and saying that Trump's too old to run. Trump's big on loyalty, but to him, loyalty and unquestioning obedience are the same thing. While I do feel as if this is bluster on Trump's part, the reality is it says a lot that he's willing to say stuff like this openly. And now Elon Musk is retaliating by saying he's going to start his own political party. Well, that would make sense. The candidate for either political party raises about $1 billion per presidential election cycle. So, with $400 billion to his name, Elon Musk could easily afford to field an entire slate of presidential candidates every single election. And since he's making at least $1 billion a year, that means he could do it and not even take away from his own net worth. You know that capitalism has failed when it produces lopsided economic outcomes like this, and speaking of proof that capitalism has failed, Mark Cuban's rumored to be enthusiastic about being part of Elon Musk's gambit. He replied to Musk's announcement by posting, "I work with voter choice. They will help you get on ballots. That is their mission." Oh, and on a side note, if you didn't know, Mark Cuban is Jewish. And that being the case, isn't it interesting how he has no problem enthusiastically supporting a guy who runs around giving what look to be Nazi salutes? Seems the Israelis aren't the only ones who will eagerly jump into bed with a raving anti-Semite if they think it suits their purposes. Now, before we go any further, there's something that needs to be said. Notice how Cuban has a voter outreach organization that he works with. Works with is code for I give these people money and they do my bidding. They're a front group for me. They're my own political action committee. This is important because white dark money is what fuels all of these strange organizations that you never heard of, and yet they've got all these front people who you also never heard of, who easily get on TV or get mentioned on white media websites as being so important. I've told you about groups like Black Pac and She the People. These are groups that claim to be about black people, and yet all they've got is one phony little black front woman, and the only thing they ever talk about is how important it is for black people to just vote. They never talk about what black people are going to get. Instead, they just say black voters are concerned about abortion and illegal immigration and so-called expanded voter access, which is code for making it legal for illegal aliens to vote. That's what that actually means. It has nothing to do with us. But Cuban's reminding you that these groups trying to convince you to turn out to vote are nothing more than sock puppets for plutocrats like him. And what they want is for you to vote, but not to get anything for yourself. These men didn't start and fund these organizations to do you any favors. So you're going to have a billionaire starting a political party, and you're going to have other billionaires who are working on his voter outreach. A closed loop of corruption. And Elon Musk saying that he's going to start his own political party. Gee, when's the last time I heard a billionaire say something like that? Oh yeah, Ross Perot. Some of you Gen Xers and Boomers will remember that Perot ran for president in 1992, and for a while he had been competitive in the polls. Then his entire campaign imploded when he began claiming that someone was trying to blackmail him about his daughter or some such. He essentially ran as a Republican, and as a result, he took votes away from the incumbent president, George H.W. Bush, which made it where Bill Clinton had just enough daylight to win the presidency. Perot made some loose talk afterwards about starting his own political party, but up until Trump, Perot was the closest thing to a political outsider who had a real chance of going all the way. Perot, however, never made good on his threat to start that third party. Musk reportedly has, and he's calling it the America Party. A name so generic and meaningless that you can tell he literally came up with it on the spot after a 3-day bender on drugs and sedatives. You know, the last time I heard a political party with a name that lame, it was Kanye West and the Birthday Party. A stupid name to be sure, what else would you expect from Kanye West? But with Elon Musk giving a party a name like the America Party, obviously he's hoping to appeal to the Fox News crowd. Who's going to tell him that Fox News' audience is the 65 to dead demo? You can't base a political party on that. Now don't get me wrong, there's more than a few similarities between Elon Musk and Ross Perot, two white billionaires with funny names who made money off of technologies that are heavily government funded. But there's also some differences too. Musk is younger than Perot was, and unlike Perot, Musk actually managed to get into the White House, albeit briefly. Musk's political strategy for his party is pretty simple. Since both parties only have a razor-thin margin in the Congress, all he thinks he needs to do is to capture a handful of Senate seats and House districts, and his America Party would be the swing vote on major legislation. His long-term goal, he says, is to field a presidential candidate, but in the near term, he's focusing on the 2026 midterms. He specifically said that his focus is on the next 12 months. That means he intends to make his move by summer of next year, which is when the midterm political campaigns really begin kicking into high gear. Remember when I told you how successful political campaigns take at least 2 years of prep time? Now, most of that time is spent with people canvassing for support, laying the groundwork for a campaign by introducing themselves to the local population, the power brokers and influence peddlers, basically getting their support system in place, the people who are in a position to give them endorsements. But mostly, they spend their time just trying to raise money. Now, Musk has tons of money, so for him fundraising, which is the most difficult part of running, is something that he doesn't need to worry about. Though I would say that being the swing vote in a legislature with a razor-thin majority only works if his guys are basically perfectly in the middle, too far to the right or the left, and they're not a swing vote anymore. You can't be too closely allied with either party. A swing vote must swing. Elon Musk was the darling of the Democrats while he was out in California, and then he became a Trump supporter, and that made him a darling of the white right until he decided that he was going to start talking back to Trump. So if he's going to start a political party, he's bringing baggage with him. Speaking of which, what policies would an Elon Musk political party even stand for? To be a swing vote, they would be constantly entering into political deals where they would support certain legislation that's in their interest, while at the same time supporting other legislation that their temporary pals want. It's all horse trading. That's what being a swing vote is. Something for something. And when you're talking about Elon Musk, who wants to downsize the number of government employees and spending on social issues, but not to downsize how much the government spends on rockets, satellites, or electric cars, the things that matter to him, then the question becomes, what positions would his political party take that would be a swing vote where Republicans are concerned? Musk showed during his brief stint in the White House that he has more in common with the Republicans than not. He said that he opposed Trump's big, beautiful bill, and clearly if he'd had the congressional support, he would have tried to block it. My question, though, is what kind of candidates is Elon Musk going to go and dig up? Will he try to find the next Donald Trump? Some outspoken personality, big mouth who says a lot of wild stuff? Musk didn't support Trump originally. He only did it reluctantly because Trump once again trounced the entire field of competitors. So I doubt that he's going to go looking for another person like that. The real question is if he'll be foolish enough to look for candidates who are like himself. Elon Musk appeals to disaffected white males of a particular political bent, and while they may worship him as some sort of genius, quote-unquote, the rest of the world recognizes Musk as phony Stark. Joe Rogan, pot-smoking, right-of-center racist are simply not enough to be a substantial constituency, even if you are talking about just a few House races or even 1 or 2 measly Senate seats. Musk has occasionally asked his sycophantic followers for their opinions, but that's on small things. When it comes to things that actually matter, things he's going to spend money on, he doesn't ask their opinions at all. Part of what the left corner of the white media said about a second Trump administration is that Trump needed to keep the crazies out. Musk and that circus he brought with him certainly qualifies. The problem for Musk is that rich people don't surround themselves with anyone who's going to tell them the truth. They instead surround themselves with yes men. Musk doesn't have the pulse of the people, and while he's insanely rich, he's also insanely weird too. And while he can certainly afford to be eccentric, that only works at the individual level. I could easily see Elon Musk finding a bunch of other kooks, weirdos, conspiracy theorists, and outright racist, and putting this satanic carnival on a ballot. He's the kind of person who would think that Sarah Palin was a great choice, or that Mike Lindell should be Secretary of State. I could see him trying to buy some congressional or Senate seats and putting millions of dollars into a gang of crackpot candidates and having all of them fail in their races because his name is attached to them. Elon Musk is on the outs with both major parties at this point. Trump is a political anomaly, but you can't win seats by looking for a bunch of anomalies. Whomever Musk is going to back, they're going to be radioactive, not just with the political establishment, but also with the voters who just want normalcy. Musk is not going to run candidates who will address the housing crisis because that would mean taking on the institutional investors, people who Musk has everything in common with. Income inequality of any sort is also something no Musk party will ever deal with because Musk is a beneficiary of that exact same inequality. Where do you think he gets all of those billions of dollars from? He's not about to give up his tax breaks, tax cuts, exemptions, special economic carve-outs, and the raft of other policies that governments give to the super rich. He'll instead repeat the same old warmed-over rhetoric about how everyone can succeed and be like him, knowing that it's all lies. If Musk wants to be a disruptor, then that will mean actually doing things that people in his tax bracket oppose. Otherwise, he's just another never-Trumper in drag, and anyone he puts on a ballot will be dragging all of his baggage with them. Now, none of this is etched in stone necessarily. But if you ask me to tell you today what's going to happen, that would be my guess, because this is not the result of careful planning on Musk's part. And as for him supporting candidates, anyone remember how much good Musk did for DeSantis' campaign? Now that was one for the books. I mean joke books, not history books. There's nothing to suggest that Musk has learned anything from that experience either. He probably still thinks that Twitter is going to elect the next president, that the bigots and buffoons who follow him online somehow represent the pulse of the country when they don't. He's created a bubble for himself, an echo chamber filled with yes men, when the majority of people on his own platform can't even stand him. If there's anything that Elon Musk should have learned from Trump, it's that money is no longer the sole determinant for who wins elections. Yes, money is important. You certainly can't win an election without it. But Trump has exposed what the limits of money in elections are. Trump proved repeatedly that money only goes so far. Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush, DeSantis, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris. The political landscape is littered with candidates, Republican and Democrat alike, who raised far more money than Trump did. And every one of them lost. The only reason that Biden won was because COVID wrecked the economy and weakened Trump just enough for Jim Crow Joe to eke out a win. But as I told you in 2020, that was a trick that would only work once. And we see how 2024 turned out. Now, that said, you want to know what else? If I actually thought that an Elon Musk candidate or even party would seriously be on board with reparations, he wouldn't, of course, because his own people in South Africa owe reparations there and are petrified at even the mention of the word. But strictly as a hypothetical for the sake of this discussion, if I was seriously convinced that an Elon Musk political party was actually going to support reparations, or at the very least, an anti-black hate crime law, another impossibility given Musk's background, then believe it or not, I would be willing to vote for them if that's what they ran on. The ballot is not a convent. It's supposed to be a whorehouse. Have cash, we'll vote. If someone makes it clear they'll produce tangibles for you, then you make a deal. The only place you're supposed to be a Puritan about is your wallet. That is supposed to be where only the pure of heart can get in. Black folks have the game all backwards because white power has spent generations sending its bootlicks among us to miseducate us about how politics really works. How long did I tell you that a Trump presidency wasn't going to be the apocalypse that some people online were saying that it would be, that it wouldn't be the end of Black America, and that while Trump isn't on our side, we shouldn't be afraid of him either? How many years were there people who said, he's just too dangerous, Trump's gonna get us? I never said to vote for Trump. I simply explained the political realities about what his presidency would mean for the status quo in this country. Yes, he is loud, offensive, and largely incompetent, but so are all of these other candidates. What Trump did differently, though, is he began kicking these other groups in the behinds. That was something nobody thought would happen. It's very easy for the Johnny-come-latelys who were scared of Trump to come along now and say that his presidency has produced some unintended benefits. But they weren't saying that years ago. The lesson to take away from my message about Trump was not that he was good for us, he's not, but that he would be bad for all these other people. And it made no sense to keep voting for the Democrats because there was nothing that the Republicans would do that Democrats hadn't already allowed them to get away with. Is Elon Musk an anti-black racist? Undoubtedly, he comes from an entire culture of anti-black racists. And so is Biden and Harris and Obama. And don't get shook up about that last one. Some of the worst anti-black racists have been bootlicks who have melanin. That's one of the oldest tricks in the white supremacist playbook. But strictly as a matter of philosophy, if any party is serious about implementing an agenda for us, then they should speak to the black grassroots, and if they're on the level, they deserve our support. Likewise, anyone who refuses to do anything for us, no matter what they may say, no matter how much phony lip service they pretend to give to Dr. King, if they're not talking about actions that are going to give us the policies we're demanding, then you're a fool to vote for that, or to say, well, we can't sit out the election because the alternative would be worse. Learn to recognize when you're already in hot water. Musk's America Party is just more of the same old political games, and it even features the same cast of characters. Are there enough disaffected and disgruntled white people who are willing to overlook Musk's own track record and support his party? We'll see. But one thing's for sure. If Elon Musk goes about launching his political party the same way he did DeSantis' campaign, then the only thing he's going to get is another black eye. Figuratively this time. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Timothy Odom, Frederica Moore, Reasonable Dude, Alan Reese, and Bo McLean. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.